welcome to the official Lakes International Comic Art Festival podcast. My name's Ian.
And my name's Nikki, bringing you the best in comics and graphic novels and updates from the festival.
Hello and welcome to Lakes International Comic Art Festival podcast episode 49. My name's Ian.
And I'm Nikki.
And we've got a
What have we got?
bundle of joy this episode.
The way you looked at me then, I was like, what has he got?
I don't know. This episode we have Rob Williams on the show. Now Rob is obviously an amazing writer who's been involved with Dredd, to name a few.
Yes.
Spiderman,
Yep.
Doctor Who, many, and he also has written the initial script for Mega City 1.
I know.
So exciting. We talked to him about Mega City 1
Yes.
and he tells us everything. You'll hear all the inside gossip and news from this show that nobody knows, and we're going to give it to you.
Yeah, he tells us nothing, Ian.
No.
Nothing. He tells us nothing.
See, now they're not going to listen.
They are, because Rob is lovely.
They're not going to listen. Be like, I thought, they teased him, and you just destroyed my teasing.
He was very good. He let nothing out. Nothing.
Pete, this episode, I must apologise, we're delaying the second part of their talk because Pete has chatted to Joel Meadows from Portsmouth Comic Con, so there's a chat there. Mike's having a week off, and also we have Tom. Tom Stewart is taking the reins and giving us his first segment.
It's the way to get him in, you see, to replace you eventually. Sorry, did I say that out loud?
Yes, you did.
You're fine, dear.
I'm just going to stay quiet now and just leave you to...
No, don't.
You just run the whole show?
No.
There we go.
Fine.
Okay. One of us has got to speak! I'm not even going to cut that out.
Oh no, people are going to be like going, hang on, as we things stop working.
And finally, reviews we'll be doing today. Slang Pictorial by Nick Prolix. We've also got Follow Me In by Catriona. Sorry, keep saying Katrina.
You do.
Catriona Chapman. And finally...
Blossoms in Autumn
by Zidru and Amy de Jong. Jong?
I think so.
Yeah, we'll go with that. But first, we're not going to do news. Well, we are going to do news in some ways. I want to talk about you again.
It's all about me.
So, there's been a big happening since last episode.
Oh yeah, like I'm famous now.
You're like famous.
I'm
so,
like famous.
So what's happened?
I was accepted by Fair Spark Books, and they've got my new book, which will be coming out on the 1st of May. Pre-order it now, people.
So this is your second comic and Fair Spark Book, so yeah, they're going to publish it.
Yes, they are. I'm ever so chuffed. They're ever so lovely as well.
Which was never planned for. We just thought we were going to self-publish.
Yeah, we were
ourselves.
again. Yeah.
And then we thought, it's a kid's story, so let's see if you like it.
Yes, yeah. It's also nice, to get pointers if they didn't like it, to try and make it better. But they did like it, so
no, they liked
it's
it.
fine.
Yeah. There's nothing, no points to be made. No. There's even Tony Esmond has even written up a nice preview about it.
Yes, really nice.
Then he didn't have to do that.
I made you read the preview just to get.
He's not going to. He's not going to write. He doesn't do that. He's not going to write. Oh, this is awful. This is God. She pretends she's something. She can't do anything. He's not going to do that.
I just can't. I can't read anything about myself. It's too embarrassing.
So yeah, it's all sort of
kicking off.
It just happened within like a day or two, didn't it? Essentially.
Yes, it really did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You interested? Yeah, we'll have it. Right, blah, 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 blah,
yeah,
done.
Here's a contract.
So, 1st of May, that will be available, but you can pre-order it for now and save 99p.
Do it, people.
So, it's only £3 if you pre-order it.
Yes.
$3.99 if you buy it.
Yes.
From a con or wherever.
Yeah. Or if you come and see me at a con.
Yeah. So, it's not going to be available on Nikkis' site directly. It's going to have to
be through Fair
Spark Books. But there's links on your site. We'll put links on here and have a look at.
Yes.
And the biggest thing to remember is, we'll get a little bit of money out of it, but also the profit also goes
to
share of it goes to the charity.
Yeah.
So you've got to remember that publisher, they're not publishing to make money for themselves. It is purely to go and help the children.
Help all the kiddies, and that's a good thing.
No, it is a good thing. So please check it out.
Yes. Yeah, if you want a little book about a little fox.
For
your kids. You don't, no words again. But one word, bite.
Because she's lazy.
No, it's not because I'm lazy. Stop it. I like my pictures to tell the story. So, you know, and then it makes it accessible for everyone. You're mean you are.
I know I am. Action Comics 1000.
Right.
So Batman 1000 is out.
Batman 1000.
1,000 issues.
Really?
Of Batman.
Wow.
I mean, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine getting to that point yourself one day.
I've got two.
Yeah, so Detective Comics issue 1000 is out. £6.75, but it's a big, bulkier version. So I'm going to ask this question, which I've just decided to do completely out of the blue. What's your favourite thing about Batman?
My favourite thing about Batman?
Yeah.
What, about him or about
the character or the world? Or
I like the world. I love Gotham. I like the dark, slightly twisted humour of the whole place. I like that. I like something that kind of sticks its nose up to like things.
Mm-hmm.
So I that's what I like. I like the dark, slightly twisted, macabre stylisation of villains, of, you know, heroes. I love that. That's what I like about Batman.
I think I like, for the most part, is that this is going to sound really silly.
Go on.
Compared to many superheroes, it's set in a more real world, as in Batman's not a superhero. Yes, you've got villains out there who have got powers like Clayface and so forth, but it feels like the powers could somehow, shown in Nolan films, you can sort of drag them into an almost real world setting, almost. Obviously, you're not going to get it like that, but it, to an extent, it is.
Yeah, it's gritty, it's dark, it's not all sunshine and flowers there. Whereas you look at other superhero things, it's quite bright and, you know, and it's not. It's not. I like that.
It's things like the Ra's al Ghul, where, you know, he's meant to live forever, but he doesn't. But they managed to change that slightly so it fitted with having someone else playing him and he can die and still, and so on and so forth. And it's just, and obviously the villains are the best villains out of any.
They are the best villains.
Character, full stop.
Yeah.
We know that. You know.
Yeah, they are.
What I found interesting, though, from just reading a few of the newer comics where Bruce Wayne isn't Batman, he's dead at the minute.
All right.
It shouldn't matter who's playing Batman, but it does.
Oh, okay.
It's not the same, even though it's Dick Grayson.
Yeah.
It's not right.
It needs to be Bruce Wayne.
It's weird. It's weird. Doesn't matter, you know, I mean, to talk about films about black people, whatever, playing, doesn't matter the colour of the skin or anything.
But it has to be Bruce.
But it's got to be Bruce Wayne.
Okay.
You've got to have that past of what's happened to him, that history.
I suppose because that is what made him Batman.
Yeah.
You know,
it's weird. And it shouldn't make a difference. Any character could just act what he's doing, but it's weird. It's weird.
I can understand that.
The only time it didn't matter was with Batman of the Future cartoon. Yeah. Where Bruce Wayne was playing the butler role because he was too old, but there was a reason for him to not be there. But yeah,
but he was still there, and that Batman of the Future was slightly different again, wasn't it? Yeah. So it was almost its own separate character.
Yeah, he's odd.
Yeah,
he's odd.
No, I can see that.
It shouldn't matter, but it really does. It really does. Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up.
Thank you very much.
It's all right
for bringing that up.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you. So let's talk some books. So. You're meant to be reading off the iPad, love, but you're not sort of there.
I didn't know. I've got my bit of paper here.
Well, I've got some more for you to read.
Oh, but I'll do.
You've not read this, but I've read. I want to do Slang Pictorial first of all. Nick Prolix, who was on the episode, a couple episodes back with Pete.
Yep.
His new comic Slang Pictorial number 4 is on Kickstarter currently. I've backed it. He kindly sent me all the digital copies because I asked him, where can I buy digital? He doesn't do digital bar the Kickstarter. So I've now pledged to get all the digital ones, so I get the new one digitally as well. This comic is set. It's about it's just a standard guy, dodgy dealer wheeler in London town.
Oh, I knew you were going to do that.
have to. And straight away when you read it, it's very. This is not a negative. It's very old fashioned in the stylisation. It feels like a newspaper.
Oh yeah, that's
sort
cool
of,
though.
You know, and it's done very differently to what you see these days. It like I say, it just feels so old fashioned, and it fits so much information in a panel.
He does.
Whether it just be words or even just small panels with the story, it's somehow every single panel portrays the story and what's going on in this world. And the books themselves, although there's a main story throughout, they've got individual stories set in this world, not following the main character all the time. And it's really interesting what he's doing with his work. Again, it's just nice to see something so different from everything else that's out there.
Yes, yeah.
It's his own style.
That's it, isn't it? It's finding a little niche.
Yeah, and this is different to anything that's out there. So I advise, go and give it a try.
Yeah.
Even if you just want to try the digital version, it's £4, you get all of them.
Yeah.
It's nothing. Go and give it a go. I mean, it's already funded. It's tripled its goal. So
brilliant.
It's not an issue on that side of things. But yeah, well worth giving it a go. Really like what he's doing. So keeping up, Nick. Not that you need me to say that. Next one is Follow Me In by... I was going to say it again then.
It's not.
It's not.
No. Take a second.
Catriona Chapman.
There we go.
You can read the blurb.
I'll read the blurb. Kat has no responsibilities and nothing to tie her down, but she had graduated university with no plans. She was an artist who hadn't drawn in 5 years. She was lost. What's more, she had been avoiding admitting to herself something that all those around her knew, that her boyfriend Richard had serious problems with alcohol. Looking for a fresh start, the two of them quit their jobs and embark on a journey to Mexico for what they expected to be an adventure of a lifetime. It led to experiences that changed both of their lives, and to Kat rediscovering a love of art, a lifelong attachment to Mexico, and the strength to move on.
No, I had a rough idea when I started reading this about what it was about, but yes. I didn't realise there was the issue of the partner with the drinking, which will make a point. You've not managed to read this yet, have you? You've not had time with you doing the comic and stuff.
I'm sorry.
So I'm talking here as well. So I thought it was just going to be a straight up travel blog almost, and as soon as you add that extra dimension of this boyfriend who's just going around who's got this drinking problem, and her coming to terms with that is a major issue. That first of all, really brought me into the comic. The comic itself is, whilst just telling a story, it's almost like a proper travel log. It gives you interesting facts as they move around the country to different places, different towns. What's wrong, dear? You're reading this?
No, I've pressed something.
What are you doing to the iPad?
I'm just going to hand it back now.
Okay. As you're reading through, it's a page of what the local town, what they like, what they enjoy, festivals that go on and so forth. So it actually gives you real life facts, as well as telling this story. And it certainly feels it is a real life journey that she went on, but you can tell it is just by the fact that, that they start running out of money. Yeah. They've got nothing to do. They can't afford this. They've got to find the cheapest place to stay. And it's not as much fun as you'd...
Which is what it would be like if you actually did this,
It's just not fun. It's an experience when you get home and you can think about everything, but that challenge, especially when you've got a partner who you're starting to distance yourself from. But she said she's got back into the drawing because of this, and her images are beautiful.
Yes, I was just seeing there. You've got some almost like picture postcards, aren't they?
Some you could quite
really
easily
pretty.
You can see, it's just gorgeous, really nice. So this one came out last year, and we've only just I haven't just managed to read it, but it is well worth grabbing this book. It's one of the top ones of last year as far as polls and everything go, and I can see why. Kat herself works for Avery Hill, and she's always been very supportive of us, but that book herself is superb, so go and check that out.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I think you should read it.
I'm going to after you've... I was like,
not a chance, but you need to read that one.
I will be.
Last one, Blossoms in Autumn. Give me some blurb.
I've got blurb. Since retiring, 59-year-old widower Ulysses has fallen into the grip of loneliness. A former removals van. I just called him a van. A former removals man. He's lost all sense of direction. He has no grandchildren to care for, and his son is consumed by work. Mrs. Salenza, a former model, now runs the family business, a cheese shop. I can't say that. Cheese shop, once owned by her late mother. Now the oldest in her family, she too is alone. When by chance Ulysses and Mrs. Salenza meet, a relationship blossoms that surprises them both. It tackles the subject of loneliness with sensitivity and intelligence. Blossoms in Autumn is filled with the same empathy, affection and warmth as the best exotic Marigold Hotel and popular BBC sitcoms such as Waiting for God and As Time Goes By.
Like it says, it's a love story of two single people
Yes.
Who lonely
people coming into the autumn of their life, really. Mm-hmm. I like how it jumps from one to the other at the same points. Do you know what I mean?
They're in very sort of similar situations
similar-ish, aren't they, really? He's come to he's retired. He's got no one.
Mm-hmm.
Her mum's died.
Yeah.
And now she's got no one. And they just look back and think, oh, God, this is me now, type thing, don't they, in a way? And it is very lonely. And it's like things like when she's on the bus and eventually the mum makes the kid stand up for the old lady, and it's like, that hit me right in the wrinkles. Old. She goes, and it's like, that just brings it back. It makes you feel old. And that you've got to the end of it all, and you haven't got to the end of it all. And I think that's what it goes on
especially
to
when you like he says, he was forced out of work, but you finished work. That should be the time you start really enjoying it, not then just sitting on your own.
Yeah, which
dreaming
is doing
of what's happened, or his partner that passed away, and you need to sort of move on. What it does sort of tackle as well, which is very awkward to a lot of people, is sex with the old age.
Oh right, okay. It's very beautifully portrayed in this, I think.
Yeah, it's quite...
the actual sex scenes.
Yeah.
I think I do like that whole montage bit, just with the soft pastels. For the page, and I think that's very, very touching and beautifully done. Personally, it goes about it the right way.
But it also goes through as well how each of them is affecting other people in certain parts of the story, which is what people forget.
Yeah,
I think in their life, your life might be pretty crappy, but it doesn't mean that other people look at it that way.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah,
and so it's an interesting book. I love the art.
Oh, yeah, it's beautiful.
It's absolutely gorgeous. And I think I'm actually going to critique it. Mm-hmm. The ending is slightly off.
Oh,
but
the
whole journey is beautiful and really enjoyable.
Okay.
But I can't talk about the ending because it's got a little surprise. But yeah, I think the ending was just that last few pages.
Oh, see, I like that.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's different people.
It's not, isn't it? Yeah,
it's not something that I would never say, don't read the book over.
Oh, God, no.
No,
I like the ending, and I like the way it just hangs it there. And then just it.
Yeah. But no, it's a beautiful book, and definitely go and give it a go.
Absolutely gorgeous book, yes, definitely. But it doesn't matter how old you are, because you all look at parts of that book and go, God, that feels like me. And you do. Especially as a woman,
old,
I think.
So it's fine.
I think as a woman you do. You like...
Okay, explain... that bit, because we've discussed this ourselves before. I know what you're going to come out with. So
with the mirror, and she's just looking at herself, which we've all done at a certain age. You've gone, oh, so everything's sagging now. And you feel unattractive, and that's she feels unattractive when she looks at herself.
I can understand why she feels unattractive, because she's single, she's alone. But and this is me getting into it now. Why would you feel unattractive?
Because you get to a certain age, aren't you? In like media and everything else, you're pushed to one side. You don't fit into this beautiful image of like a 20-year-old anymore. I'm 40-odd.
40-odd? Not quite
40
that much.
And an odd number.
Okay. We're going to go talk deep here.
Oh, here we go.
If you've got somebody who is loving you and finds you attractive...
Yes.
I mean, you might not. But if... Then why would that be the case? Why would you care about society or
I think we are, because we're so force fed images now all the time, and I think women are the worst critics on themselves and other women. I think we're the worst, but we are fed these pictures of what we should be looking at. They'll show women in their 60? Yeah, wasn't she? And they will show you women who look beautiful in their 60s, but not all. We're all saggy. From 40 onwards, everything's sagged. Everything's headed south. But we're expected to still look, or like she does in the book, fade into the background a bit. You become grey. You become invisible.
Now, that I personally don't think that's the case. I think that's confidence.
Well, her confidence is definitely not from the book, and I think women's confidence as they get older is not.
Yeah. But that's them. They're fading to background is because they're allowing themselves to fade into background because of lack of confidence.
Are we allowing ourselves to fade in the background, or are we expected still, like I say, by society just force-feeding you all? Like when we watch a film, we got into this, I'm ranting.
No, it's fine. It's good.
Like when we watch a film and it's, you've got your action hero, and he's of a certain age. I'm thinking, in the 40s, and who do they go out with? Someone in the 20s. In the film, why aren't you sticking with someone their own age? Makes
the film we watched last night, Skyscraper, which is awful.
It was a brilliant film, but a lot of them don't. And again, you're sitting there going, "Oh, right, brilliant."
But it's
underrepresentation of, and I think that all knocks our own belief ourselves. I mean, you lose confidence as you get older. Anyway, that just seems to be a thing that happens.
No, you see, to me, I've not.
That's because you're a man.
Yeah, but that's what I want to go on my side.
Women do, and I think
but older. You shouldn't be.
No, I know, but that's what happens.
This
I'm
is
not
where
saying it's right.
No, yeah, this is what I'm just trying to get. I think women. Actually, I'm going to get slapped for saying some stuff.
I can kick you from here.
I just want women to not feel like that. I think that's what I'm trying to say.
I don't think women want to feel like that.
I don't think they should drop in the confidence. I don't think. I can understand a single person, but that's just a single person. That's a different story, because then you've got that battle of trying to find somebody. Obviously, when you get older, it's harder to find somebody anyway, because there's so fewer people who are single, essentially. Yeah. And that is going to make you feel less attractive. But if you're with a partner who is loving you, loving your neck in, then no, but why would that not make you feel attractive?
I don't know. I do think we have such a harsh view of ourselves as women that we judge ourselves too harsh. Yeah. I'm going to use harsh a lot now.
Harsh.
We judge ourselves too... I can't speak. I really can't. Judge ourselves too harshly on a lot of fronts. And I think that's what's happening. And I think that book shows it as well. Has led to this lovely discussion.
Yes. Oh, it's a lovely discussion.
Thank you very much.
If you listen to this on release day, in fact, it doesn't matter if it's after release day. We're actually going on completely changing the subject.
We're going on tour in a camper. We're not.
We'll be on YouTube for Fair Spark Books again. We're doing a talk about podcasts, and I suppose this is where I'm just going to go on to linking it to what we're just talking about. Mm-hmm. Representation again of women in podcasts and comic podcasts is quite low on the comic side. It's not in a podcast. Well, it is still more males doing it. Yeah. But the podcasting, that's a choice. Anyone can podcast. It doesn't really matter. Mm-hmm. Women probably aren't as interested in doing that. They've got other forms of creative outputs.
I'll do all of the creative outputting.
But certainly in the comic podcast scene, is
it just me? Whoop!
No, it's not just you. I can think of a couple, but it's certainly more male orientated, that's for sure.
Is that the industry as a whole? Do you think, or is it?
Well, it was in the past.
Yeah. Is it comics were more aimed at boys?
Well, it's a comic. Certainly, the comics that we discuss, it's maybe slightly more male orientated, but there's certainly a heck of a lot of women.
Good. Yeah, I will stand on the podcasting thing for women. And more of us. There should be. I'm going to bring about a revolution.
But that's because we discuss. We talk about the graphic novels and the self-published stuff. Yeah. But on the Marvel and DC, which is what obviously a lot of the comic podcasts, certainly the American ones are. Yeah. It's still a battle, from what I gather, to get the women.
Is it?
No, I think it's definitely a lot more men.
Well, I'm holding up my end for the British women podcasters in comics. Then
there is some there. They are out there though.
Shout out to my fellow women.
Anyway, let's stop talking serious.
That was quite serious.
It was, wasn't it? Yeah.
I have to go and have a lie down.
So let you listen to Rob.
He was lovely.
Then we'll come back. We've got quite a bit to discuss festival-wise. It's slowly ramping up.
Oh, hello.
So yeah, there's quite a bit to talk about.
Is that your voice thing?
It was actually my Hellboy style voice because we've got Hellboy stuff to talk about.
Yeah, but that wasn't very good.
Enjoy, Rob.
Hello everybody, and welcome to a brand new section of the Comic Art Festival podcast with me, Tom Stewart from That Comic Smell podcast. This section is called Small Pressed, and it's where I'll be talking about small press titles. I've collected quite an amount of small press titles over the past couple of years with going to different cons or having stuff sent through or backing different Kickstarters, and it's finally time that I got a chance to speak about them. And thankfully the folks here at the podcast asked me to come on and talk small press, and I cannot thank them enough for giving me another outlet in which to talk comics. So, enough of this idle chit-chat, we'll get on with it. I have here a comic called The Sidewinding Beat Volume 1 by John I. Now, it's a collection of different strips and one-page comics from John's Tumblr. Let's read you the start of it. This volume collects together comics from my blog, thesidewindingbeat.tumblr.com. The blog is over 5 years old now and has evolved significantly in that time, with my attention turning towards self-published printed material. Now seems like a good time to mark what has gone before and look forward to what's next. I absolutely love the Sidewinding Beat Volume 1. It's just absolutely brilliant. It's such a nice sort of... It's kind of like disjointed black and white style, very scratchy art throughout it. Really fits with the kind of disjointed writing and speech bubbles and whatnot as well. It's very freehand. There's no strict structure. There's no thick black outlines throughout each panel or anything like that. It's very much just an off-the-cuff, free-flowing comic style throughout it. There's a lot of different stuff going on in here. Like I say, it is a collection of different strips and different bits of work that John has done. There's little sort of political satire pieces on David Cameron. There's like actually a whole middle section on different bits on David Cameron that are quite humorous. There's odd bits and bobs here of just almost like random thoughts that have then been made into like art pieces almost, but they still fit quite well within the comic format. There's a very nicely named bit that says the man with the wound that's never properly healed that sometimes reopens. Doesn't leave much to the imagination as to what that strip would be about, but it's the way it's all done with the black and white, and it looks like quite rushed, but there's still quite a lot of thought to it as well. But there is some very thoughtful pieces in amongst this. My highlights would definitely be there's a strip called Collateral, in which a gentleman talks about his time being an academic professor of economics. And he runs through like what he does and how he explains everything, and then how after 30 years his wife tells him that she's very sick, and it kind of shows that it doesn't matter what he's been teaching over these years and all these statistics and how things all go a certain way, he still has no control over this situation. And how much he's just trying to absorb every part of his wife, even though he knows he's going to lose her, and he doesn't know what he's going to do about that. And it just kind of leaves you on that, and it's absolutely beautiful. And that style that he's got of that kind of scratchy black and white fits it perfectly. It shows you the kind of structure that he's got with that imbalanced chaos that's suddenly thrown in as well. And the kind of the freehand writing that goes on and about it as well just fits perfectly with it. It's really nice. Yeah, big fan. And I think Collateral is probably one of the ones throughout the book that actually has a kind of panel structure going on about it, as opposed to just like art pieces placed on a page. Whereas some of the David Cameron stuff takes a more the hysterical kind of look at David Cameron in his press interviews and how he would be in his home life and whatnot. They're a lot less structured and just kind of put on the page, but they really do work and they're funny. There's one that's David Cameron's tax arrangements, and it's how the interviewer's kind of talking to him about how there's a crackdown on tax avoidance and how he's not done enough, and he just replies with, "You're ugly." But it's really funny. There's a lot of good strips within it. The art is different throughout it. There's no Like, there is a consistency. You could obviously pick John's stuff out if it was in an anthology or anything, but it does kind of change up quite a lot within it, and I quite like that. I like that it shows that a person can change their art maybe depending on their mood or the type of piece that they're writing or drawing. It's interesting, and it's got an absolutely beautiful front cover. Everything else in it is black and white, but the front cover is like a pastel pink and like a sort of ombre bluey greeny sort of colour with a man cycling on what looks like a runway. Really interesting. I'm a big fan of that. But it's funny that I mentioned John in an anthology because he was actually in Good Comics Dead Singers Society Volume 2 with a piece on, it's called a Post-Clash Redemption. It's all about Joe Strummer when he left the Clash and doing the music for the Alex Cox film Walker. You know, there's not really a lot to the strip itself. It is just kind of giving you a highlight in a career, giving you a highlight of a part in a very successful career. I mean, Joe Strummer was a massive success, and this probably not so much. It's good to see somebody doing a part on a famous singer that maybe wasn't so focused on. Although it focuses on Joe Strummer himself, it doesn't focus on his life or his death, really. It just focuses on this one singular point after the Clash had fallen apart, and it's really good. But it's still, you can pick out that it was John that did this piece because it's his style. You can see it's his kind of freehand borders and panels. It's his freehand writing. There's no structured font that's in it, and it's his kind of scratchy style as well. It's absolutely beautiful, but it fits absolutely perfectly in amongst all these stories in Dead Singer Society. But yeah, to get more from John I, which I would highly recommend you go and do, go to the-sidewinding-beat.tumblr.com or the sidewindingbeat.weebly, weebly.com, or you can find John on Twitter at John Francis I, JONFRANCISAYE. And to get the Dead Singer Society Volume 2 to see John's strip, go to goodcomics.co.uk and go to the shop. It's still on there at £5. And I will be speaking about some of the Good Comics titles in the future because I still have a lot of them on the shelf to go through, along with a lot of other titles. And I look forward to doing this regularly. I cannot thank the folks at the Lakes International Comic Art Festival podcast enough for letting me come on here and chat small press and chat comics with them. This is just an absolutely amazing opportunity, and I look forward to doing it more. So until next time, folks, you can find me on Twitter at URAMYX. That's my own Twitter, or you can find us at That Comic Smell on Twitter and Instagram, and come and listen to our podcast after you've listened to this great one on SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, most places that you can get podcasts, or just Google us at That Comic Smell. So until next time, this has been Small Pressed with me, Tom Stewart, and I will speak to you soon. Thanks, everyone.
Today on the show we have Rob Williams with us. Thank you very much, Rob, for coming on.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
That's all good. So let's wind back time, back to the days gone by. What comics were you reading as a child?
Lots, I think. I mean, it's. I think I probably started out with something like the Victor Book for Boys, which a neighbour who lived up the road would give me her son's old copies of that. And sort of commando books, and I was reading Whizzer and Chips, and Roy of the Rovers, which, funnily enough, I'm now writing, which is one of those weird sort of life arc things you never would expect. And then a bit later on, well, I loved the American comics as well. When we could get them, because growing up in South Wales, they were tough to come by. They weren't specialist comic shops back in those days. That kind of led me a bit further on to 2000 AD and things like the Daredevils, which was a Marvel UK reprint of a lot of amazing American stuff like Frank Miller's Daredevil. I was a comic reader from as far back as I can remember.
I think it's those reprints that brought Marvel and DC over, doesn't it, to us? Like you say, we were the same. We couldn't get hold of those comics, so we relied on those reprints to
well, you'd do a thing like you'd go to my dad was a lorry driver and he'd take me out and we'd go to sort of like newsagents and I'd pick up like an issue of Justice League and it was like it was like some magical other world. But the thing is, you get a great cliffhanger and you could never get the second issue. So,
or you'd get issue 3 and that'd be it. Yeah, you don't get the beginning or the end.
No, exactly. So there's amazing stories as a kid. I remember sort of reading one where Darkseid was coming back to life. I had no idea who Darkseid was, and I could never find out for years afterwards who Darkseid was. There was no way of knowing.
So how did you get into writing comics then?
I trained as a journalist and I was working as a freelance journalist for years and I ended up working, which wasn't the plan, for a video production company just because I needed a job coming out of college. And I was writing scripts for visuals and it was really boring subject matter. I mean, it was like we'd make videos about sewage treatment plants and things like that. Okay. But nevertheless, even though what that led me to think was, hang on, I'm writing scripts for visuals here, so maybe I could have a crack at writing comics. But I never, it was never the plan to I never even thought it was possible to do it for a living. The plan was always to be a journalist or to write in some form. Mm-hmm. And then I was fortunate. My first ever comic script was Class War, which a company called ComX at the time were just starting up, a new British comic company. And I went along to Bristol Comic Convention because I just moved to Bristol, and it was my first time I'd ever been to a comic convention. I didn't even know comic conventions existed. And went along completely naive and handed like a full script to ComX and not a pitch because, again, clueless. Mm. And a few months went by and they rang me one night and they said they finally read it and really liked it and they wanted to publish it. So I was, it's a case of sort of right place at right time and also me being lucky to find a company who were starting out and they were willing to look at scripts by unknowns,
Yeah. How did it feel seeing that first comic printed out for you?
I was bonkers. I mean, like I say, it was just not anything. I think there's a lot of people who maybe always have the plan. They'll think, that's what I want to do when I'm growing up. And as much as I loved comics, I just never, ever considered that I'd be writing them. So it's kind of like a really bit of a joyful left turn in life that I've ended up doing it for a living, really. It was because, the same thing with, there not being aware of comic shops growing up in the South Wales valleys. It was just, I had no concept how these things were made. None whatsoever, you know what I mean? And it was only, you didn't get to see before the internet many comic scripts. No. They were really, really rare. And there was one in a 2000 AD annual one year, I think, and that was like, wow, okay, this is how it's done. And similarly for pitches, but the internet just opened all that up because suddenly you could get hold of, Warren Ellis or whatever would put his pictures online and stuff, and you could see how people format their work and stuff. But prior to that, it was a mystery.
So eventually you went to work for 2000 AD.
Yes.
How was that, bearing in mind you'd grown up reading?
Yeah, it was, I grew up reading it. I think I stopped reading it in the 90s for a good few years and came back to it. But that came about through Class War. I was... as many things come about in comics through being in pubs, seems to be. Pubs are intrinsically woven into the fabric of comics. So I was out one night in London with a few comic creator friends, and Andy Diggle was there, and Andy Diggle was the editor of 2000 AD at the time, and he liked Class War, and he said, you should be writing for 2000 AD. So that was my in, really. So, and that's what you tend to find is you do one job and all being well, if it goes well, it tends to lead to other jobs, like any other walk of life.
Yeah.
But I pitched something for 2000 AD, and that was kind of like my difficult second album in a way, in as much that Class War I didn't know what I was doing, so it was all enthusiasm and sort of like a bit of nascent talent, and so you kind of splurge it out, and it went quite well, and people seemed to like it, and then other people said, "Oh, do that again," and I didn't have a clue how to do that again. Do you know? It felt like I'd used all my influences in one fell swoop. So I think I was very fortunate with 2000 AD that Matt Smith, who's still the editor, he took over from Andy, and Matt was very patient with me, because I think the first series I did for 2000 AD was a series called Asylum, and there's some like fun stuff in it, but I think I was floundering a bit. I hadn't really got a grasp of sort of like how to structure your work and how to pace your work and all those kind of things. So it was a bit of I think 2000 AD has been very much almost like my learning curve, really. So
how have you got on to learn structuring, I suppose? Is it just through practice, or has someone give you advice? Is there anything useful advice you could give to anyone else?
There's lots of really good books on like screenwriting, I would say, if anybody wants to go down this road. I think a lot of people are very negative about things like Robert McKee and these screenwriting gurus. And there's a book called Save the Cat by Blake Snyder people are very sniffy about. But in all these books, there's good practice in all of them, and even the very basics of learning things like 3-act structure, and the fact that a story has to have a start, a middle, and an end, and has to have a protagonist, and they need to want something, and if they want something, then there's drama, because all these real basics. I would just advise anyone to go out and if you want to write for a living, learn structure, because so much of storytelling is craft more so than talent. I think when I grew up, I kind of thought these people were like, it must be all about talent and like stories download into your brain from the ether or something. You either have genius ideas or you don't. So much of that is nonsense. It's just like being a carpenter or anything else. You learn craft, you learn structure, you learn tricks for the fact, because if you want to do it for a living, you're not inspired every day. Do you know what I mean? And you have to sit down and you have to write. And I think if you learn certain dramatic beats that you have to hit along the way to make an effective story, that's how you kind of ensure that you can do it professionally, I think, because no one's inspired and on all the time. Do you know what I mean? It's a creative job, and it's a bit of a treat to be able to do it for a living, but it's still a job. You still have to do it day after day after day.
Yeah. So how did you find, obviously, creating your own original stories to start with, then moving on to existing properties, specifically within 2000 AD? Was that more of a challenge, or did that make it easier? How was that?
It's kind of, writing for 2000 AD was like, I've done quite a few series for 2000 AD where they're like my worlds that I've pitched, and they're entirely original ideas. But I think that probably the bulk of what I've done for 2000 AD has been set within the Dredd world. And I did a series called Low Life for years, and got to work with some amazing artists like Henry Flint originally, Simon Colby, Disraeli. And that was me kind of writing in Dredd's world without writing Dredd. So you almost like a little bit, you kind of got the training wheels on again a little bit, and you got freedom to do your own thing, because it's not affecting the main guy, the main story. But the main thing about doing that makes it easier is the world is already established and it's been set up brilliantly by John Wagner and Alan Grant and Pat Mills and these guys. And if you grew up reading it, you know that world, and so a large part of your work has been done for you, And then I think after I wrote Low Life for quite a few years, God knows how long, maybe 10 years or something, then I started more and more writing Dredd every now and again, and I kind of almost felt like, I think when you start writing Dredd, it's like when you write any of the big icons, especially if you read them as a kid, you feel this huge weight and pressure, and that can kind of your fear like stops you writing them in an interesting way, I think. Yeah. And I think you've got to eventually, as time goes on, you get more and more confident, and you get to a point where, all right, I'm going to write Dredd, but I'm going to write the character of Dredd, as a man, rather than the RoboCop version that just turns up and says your move creep and blows people away and is pithy and something, and that can be fun and everything. But I found, like, when I've written Dredd and when I started to really enjoy writing Dredd was when I actually started to write Joe Dredd and all the stuff that's going on with him emotionally below the surface and all these type of things. But yeah, it's again, I say it's a treat. If you grew up reading these stories and you're telling stories in those in that world and with those characters, it blows you away. And similarly, I've been lucky. I've written Spiderman, I've written Superman, and the Batman, all these kind of characters. And you as a kid, kind of. Occasionally you do get moments which are really nice where the inner child in you kind of goes, holy crap, I believe they're foolish enough to let me do this. Which is lovely. You know what I mean? Because so much of it, like I say, it can get a job and it can get frustrating and all those things that come with any job. But, you still have those moments of like inner child and that's really nice.
I think Dredd's one of those, though, you can sort of... He's got such an open world almost, hasn't he? You can sort of almost take it whatever route you want and do those one-shots. With the Marvel side, was that a bit tighter, did you feel, or did they give you free reign on the
No, they never give you fully free reign. I mean, I think that's true of pretty much... anything that's a shared universe or whatever, especially with the American companies. I mean, you don't get me wrong. You still get freedom to pitch your stories, and you live and die on pitching your stories with them. But there is more editorial control, and occasionally, quite often, you get that thing of, well, you can't do that because of something that's going on in another book, and that's an interesting process to get your head around, but it's the nature of working for either Marvel or DC. You'll kind of go like, oh, what did I get told once? I pitched a story with Sunfire. There's an X-Men character called Sunfire. It's a Japanese superhero. And I had no idea. And they went, oh, you can't do that because he had his legs cut off last week. There you go. Okay.
Yeah, fair play.
That alters the story I was going to tell, certainly, if he has no legs. And then you kind of go, well, maybe we could have him. Well, I thought, well, he can fly, so maybe he would just hover, but I'm not entirely sure the world was ready for a stumpy, hovering superhero, But sometimes you get this thing with them as well, which is hilarious. It's almost like the characters, are like actors. Then you get told, oh, they're not available. You kind of go, well, can we use... I don't know, whoever, Captain America, Daredevil. Can we use Daredevil? Oh, he's not available because he's off-world or something. And you kind of go, okay. It's almost implies they have agents and trailers and something, and they're busy on another job,
Brilliant.
So I think, going into working for DC or Marvel, that you are playing in a shared world, shared universe, and you don't get the same level of freedom. But there's still an enormous amount of freedom within what you do.
I mean, I look at your sort of list of projects that you've worked on, and I must admit they do seem like the films and stuff you grew up on.
Yeah.
Have you chosen those in particular, or is it just the opportunities you got? Because I mean, I'm just looking at RoboCop, Terminator, Ghostbusters. It's like, wow, Indiana Jones. I've done a lot of license. I haven't done it for a few years, but I've done a lot of licensed work over the years, and I got to write Star Wars, and I got to write Indiana Jones, like you say, and Ghostbusters and stuff. And this is all stuff, all stuff that I was, films I loved growing up. So I mean that makes it you've got the voice immediately. You feel like you can hear those characters.
So you don't have to do it. It's no great toil to do a lot of research on a lot of these things.
What a shame! I'm going to have to watch the movies again. Oh no!
Oh, okay. I'll watch Ghostbusters again. Not as though I don't watch that about twice a year anyway. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, when those jobs show up, they're that type of stuff has been it's just fun. You know what I mean? I mean, you get limits. I mean, it's interesting. I did Doctor Who, the Doctor Who comic for Titan. I did the 11th Doctor for a few years, and you come across this dramatic kind of like the thing with all of those licensed books is everyone knows, the reader knows, we can't make the big narrative moves, you know what I mean? Like, we're not going to kill Han Solo or something in the comic because he had to stay alive to be killed in the film or whatever when he does. So, I mean, with Doctor Who, there was a period where the Matt Smith Doctor was going off, and I forget in the TV show they said he went off by himself for like 900 years or whatever it was and had his own adventures. So we set our stories, and then we came up with sort of new, brand new set of companions. And that was fun because the drama then comes from the companions because, you might know the Doctor isn't going to die, but the companions, they're not safe. So there is a certain amount of there's stakes, for the stories you're telling. And I think that's important because you can find doing those as much fun as it is to do those license work, everyone's safe. The major characters are safe. So there's a certain amount of how much do they matter? That question.
And even if they do die, they soon come back.
They're
back the following year.
Well, that's with superheroes. No one stays dead, right? Yeah.
So you said earlier you've started working on Royal Rovers. Do you feel football comics are starting to come back into light? Because there seems to be quite a few popping up.
Well, there's Rock of the Reds, which is the John Wagner,
which I absolutely love.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, this is. I mean, I think that preempted us coming back with Roy a little bit. But yeah, I mean, the thing that's cool is, I mean, Roy is essentially a kids comic. It's aimed at the young adults, or however you want to term it. And the fact of the matter is, kids love football. And it just makes total sense that there's, a lot of kids will read Roy of the Rovers who won't read any other comics because they're into football. And what we did was, when we were going to relaunch it, even though people of a certain age know the title and know how iconic Roy of the Rovers is, that term, we had to make it so that like it's fresh for kids who've never read it before. So we decided to kind of do that Marvel Ultimate Universe thing, really, where we took Roy back to he's starting his journey. He's 17 years old and he's playing for his local club, and but Melchester Rovers they've kind of gone a bit like sort of like Forest in a way, where they've gone down a few divisions. I mean, not as Forest is still in the Championship, but they used to be a great European club, and they used to win league titles, but it's all gone wrong over the years, and there's a faded glory about the club. And so it's Roy's kind of journey to with his friends, because they've got no money, they've got to give the kids a go, and they've got to let the kids play in the first team. So it's that sort of every kid's dream. Like, you're 16 or 17 and you get your chance to play, and then you make your mark, and suddenly you're on your journey. And so it's just a lot of fun, and it's nice to write for a young adult audience. And I've got kids of my own, so it's kind of cool to write a comic that they can read.
I suppose the challenge these days, though, is getting it to those kids, isn't it? It used to be in the papers. Yeah. It was easy. How do you think they're going to go about that? How do you think you're going to get kids reading this? Because, I mean, it's a question we're all asking at the minute. How are we getting kids reading comics?
I've done a few school talks, and Tom Palmer, who's the novelist who writes for Roy Rovers novels, while I do the comic side of it. He does a lot of school stuff. And this is the thing, I think, when we're getting it in their hands, they really like it, but it's convincing them, getting them to know about it, to exist. I mean, I think Rebellion, who are doing the Roy Rovers books, it's mainly being done through bookstores and through Amazon, and it's not going down the traditional comic shop route. The kids are happy to read that. My son's really into manga. He loves the format of manga, that ability to sort of hold like something of that size in his hand and read it in bed. And it's not it's a shame, but like if you want to buy comics, as you know, these days for kids, you go into any shop and they mainly sort of got plastic toys on the front cover, and there's hardly any. There might be a page or two of comics in them, So apart from something like the Phoenix, it's a real challenge actually getting kids to read it, because when they do read it, they tend to love it.
Yeah, it's that continuing battle that's
it is, isn't it?
We'll stand up for. Keep trying.
This is it's something we're all trying to work out, and again, I'm not the first person to raise this, but a billion kids will go and see the Marvel movies, but actually getting them to read the Marvel comics is how do you go about doing that?
Yeah. If someone has the answer, how do you go about doing that? I think the example with Marvel Comics is promoting the comics at the cinema screen. Selling the comics, giving them away free. That's the thing, and Marvel just don't seem to care about that side of it. DC as well. They're all the same. They don't seem to want to promote the comic side. Yeah, they're quite happy taking the money from the films, but not,
Yes, I think there is that.
There's ways of doing it, but they're not going to do it. So it's it's down to everyone else to sort it out.
Optimism.
So, sort of final question, which you're not gonna be able to answer, but obviously I believe you're doing Mega City 1. You've been involved with that now, and I'm sure you can't talk about that.
Oh, I can't, I'm afraid. Yeah.
But how was it to write for a TV series as opposed to writing for a comic?
Well, like I say, bearing in mind I can't say anything at all because I'll get shot. The only real, well, there are subtle differences. The major difference is you have to have an eye on cost, because in comics, all you have to worry about is killing the artist, which we often do. You know what I mean? But if you kind of go, 40,000 ships come over the hill. The artist will track you down and kill you. But I mean, it doesn't intrinsically cost anything apart from someone's well-being, which is a small price to pay, right? But there are a couple of instances where I'd write, let's do that, and then you just get told that'll cost the absolute earth. And you go, okay, well let's maybe find another way to do essentially the same kind of dramatic beat. So yeah, I mean that is the major difference. There's certain narrative things which work well in comics, which you can't do. Like we do internal thought in comics and stuff. We'll whether you do thought bubbles or whether you do captions of what people are thinking. Of course, you don't do that. But it's apart from that, it's they're not a million miles away, removed from each other. But apart from that, I'm afraid I can say nothing.
I didn't expect it. Story-wise, I guess you won't be able to say a single word about. But
no, not a thing. The only thing I can say is that I have written for it. That's it. I'm sorry.
I'm really looking forward to it. It is a way forward, wasn't it? We always said we had taught ourselves to get it on TV. Don't focus on Dredd. Look at the world, and I think they made the right choice there. So really looking forward. Well,
I mean, wait and see. I mean, I can't say anything, but it's kind of it's what can I say? The only thing I can say is that there's a genuine intent to make it, the world we know from the comics, which I think, both the Dredd movies had positives about them, even though I know, but they still did. I mean, even the Stallone one, the Angel Gang looked cool and everything, and
the ABC Warriors,
and it had that sense of it did give a sense of that insanity of a city, and then the Alex Garland Dredd, was a very tight kind of almost felt to me like those like a VHS thriller you'd rent in the 80s or something, you know what I mean? And it was like, they didn't have the budget to go wide on the city and everything. So, but with this, there is an intention to there was a certain amount of the humor of Dredd was missing from that one.
Yeah, true.
So there's, the black humor, which is like as part of what makes Dredd tick. So there is a real intent to try and make it the Mega City One and the craziness of Mega City One and the black humor of Mega City One, as well as the fact that you can do straight drama and great action and all those things. So yeah, fingers crossed. We'll see.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Really looking forward to it. So what have you got coming out down the line then, comic-wise?
Oh, what's coming up down the line? That's a very good question. Well, Rival Rovers, the second Rival Rovers graphic novel has just come out. It's called Foul Play, and that's by me and Ben Wilshire. So really enjoying that. I've got the third Rival Rovers graphic novel is on its way as well. And that's called Playoffs, I believe. And then a couple of weeks back, I was in and we were planning out the second season. So we're going to be doing it. I'm going to be doing another season of that. Okay. I'm trying to think what I can talk about, what I can't talk about. I'm currently working on a creator-owned mini-series that I can't say anything about because it hasn't been announced yet. Working with people I can't say anything about. Today I've been writing another 2000 AD story, and I can't say anything about that yet. So I'm no use, am I?
So you've got stuff coming out.
There's plenty of stuff on the way.
Super.
What else? Chris Weston and I I've got a 5-part Dredd that's coming soon because that's finished, and Chris is about halfway through drawing it, and that is we've been setting up for a few years now. This in Dredd's world, there's the SJS, and there's a serial killer who's one of the judges called Judge Pin, and she's been working secretly for years and years and years, and the whole idea being that so many judges die on the streets that if judges disappear, well, it happens, right? So that's how she's been able to hide it, but no one is aware, A, that she's been doing it, and B, the scale of how many she's killed. So this is a big 5-part, the final kind of showdown between Dredd and Judge Pin. So, and because it's Chris Weston, it looks absolutely amazing. And what else can I talk about? I don't think I can talk about anything else. I'm really sorry.
That's absolutely fine. It's interesting. All the stories you've got going on behind the scenes. It's great.
It's always a way, and there's always a few things as well which might happen or might not as well. It's just that's the nature of doing it for a living. You're never quite aware. Sometimes you go, "Can I talk about this?" Oh no, I can't talk about it. You know what I mean?
So we're going to see you this year up at the Lakes Festival, which I believe is your first year.
Yes, looking forward to it. It should be great.
Yeah. So what are you expecting?
Rain.
I'm getting you to say
I told you
it's going to rain.
I'm blaming you for that. No, I love the Lake District. I mean, I come up quite often anyway just to visit. So to combine the two things together will be great. And there's a few. I mean, Lawrence Campbell's coming as well as a good friend of mine. Garth Ennis is coming as a good friend of mine. So it'll be cool, to hang out with some of my favourite people and to do it in some beautiful surroundings, I hope.
Well, we'll give you a good list of bars when you're up here to go and have a few drinks in.
Yeah, and I'm hoping, I mean, if I can swing it a couple of days either side so I can get some nice walks in as well, that'd be great.
Yeah, superb. Well, we'll hope to bump into you then. In fact, we will definitely come and say hello when you're up here. And thank you very much for your time this evening.
No, thanks a lot for talking to me, and I hope your tonsils grow back soon.
Oh no, I don't want them to.
All right, maybe not. But thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to the convention.
How do? Welcome to Breakdowns, the comic art section of the podcast. I'm Pete Taylor. I'm a small press comics creator and illustrator. Online I trade as This Man, This Pete. This episode, I'm talking to a leading figure in the comics and genre scene, founder and editor-in-chief of Tripwire magazine, and producer of Portsmouth Comic Con. It's Joel Meadows. Hi, Joel.
Hello.
Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure as always.
Now, let's have a bit of background. What is your comic book origin story. How did you get into comics and all things geeky?
Well, it goes back quite a few years. Tripwire started as a fanzine, a print fanzine back in 1992. So we did it in print from 92 to 2013, and then we swapped to the web in 2015. So on Tripwire, which is now a website, we cover comics, film, TV, and admittedly any other stuff that sort of takes my fancy. So bits of illustration and a little bit of art as well. So I've been doing this for a scarily long time, for 27 years now.
Cool. And are you still reading comics?
Oh yeah.
What you're reading and what's a good recommendation at the moment?
Well, I have to say that one of the things I was most impressed with, there's a couple. Well, one is Sword Daughter by Dark Horse, written by, I've got to get this right, it is Brian Wood. Forgive me, I'm pretty sure it's Brian Wood drawn by Matt Chater.
Right.
So it's like a Viking revenge story about this girl who kind of tries to get revenge on horrendous things that happened to her, and it's a really good, fantastic adventure story. And Matt Chater, who conveniently is coming to our show, who's based up in Newcastle, is a brilliant artist. He's done quite a few other things for Dark Horse, and it's a really fun story. And I do like Black Hammer as well. Jeff Lemire and Dean Ormston's fantastic, weird superhero series, again from Dark Horse. So
yeah, which is growing and growing, isn't it? As well.
This is incredible what that series, what they've achieved with that. I mean, fair play to them. But Lemire is one of my favourite comic creators the last, nearly 10 years now.
Yeah, it just keeps coming up, doesn't it?
Man's just incredible. He's like a machine.
He's just announced that series with Mike Diodato, hasn't he?
Yes, I saw that.
Berserk.
I don't know how he ever sleeps, but he seems to be constantly working.
Mind you, I mean, it must be the same for you, because, I mean, if you're on Tripwire, like you mentioned, which is, I mean, that's just a rolling genre magazine, isn't it? I mean, you have to be on top of cinema releases, trailers, comic news,
TV shows, and also I do Tripwire, the Tripwire section for Comic Scene magazine, which is we usually generate new material for that. So there's 8 pages an issue in that, which I write, edit, and design as well.
So it's full on, isn't it? I mean, yes. So you did mention it started as a fanzine.
Yes.
So was it 92? So you would have been mainly dealing with comics back then?
Well, it was comics and music.
Right.
My former partner on the magazine used to deal with the music section. I did the comics. But we had sort of a passing of the ways around about 99. And then we swapped we dropped the music and we replaced it with film and TV, which, to be honest, was a better fit.
Right.
And so I got a new sort of partner in the business, Gary Marshall, who worked with me for a number of years. And then we had a little bit of a break, and we brought it back as a print annual. I think it was 2007 to 2011. We printed like a big 100+ page colour print annual that we do every summer.
That's right.
And then we did
I remember the Hellboy edition.
Yeah, that's it. We did Hellboy.
The Grado cover.
We covered Heroes. It was an interesting period. We did a Kick-Ass sort of issue as well that wasn't an annual. We did that as like a slightly cheaper format. I think it was 80 or 100 pages. So we did that. There was a slight break. We did our 21st anniversary book, and we switched to the web in 2015.
And you must have interviewed pretty much everybody. I mean, you've interviewed the greats in comics and a lot of big names in movies as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, we've been very lucky. I mean, over the years, interviewed people like Frank Miller, Joss Whedon, Mike Mignola. Sadly, late Joe Kubert and Will Eisner we interviewed in the magazine, and just a load of people. I've actually forgotten a lot of people that we've interviewed, because I've been going through, because we're looking at putting out some sort of archive material through another publisher, and so I have started to go through, and I've forgotten. I mean, obviously we interviewed, when we started in 92, we gave Vertigo a big push. We interviewed everyone from Grant Morrison, Pete Milligan, all of the big people, Frank White. We've known Vince for a long time. So yeah, we as I said, I've forgotten a lot of the people that I've interviewed over the years. Yeah,
it's a nice period for crossover, though, isn't it? In terms of having the veterans still around.
It was a golden age.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still interesting, but it's got a little bit harder because it's become a bit more homogenized. I've had this conversation this week with the Disney Fox deal obviously being confirmed, and I think it's a little bit unhealthy for almost one company to own everything, because you have different voices and different perspectives if one person or one company owns everything almost.
Yeah, it's harder to bring new ideas to market.
Exactly.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
And then it's that kind of period as well where we are seeing obviously some of the real veterans of the business either disappear or retire.
Yes, exactly. Joe Sinnott last week, George Perez about a month, I think it was, or so ago, that's right. Which is, that was one of the first comics I ever read was Teen Titans, New Teen Titans. It was either issue 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So I've always had a huge soft spot for him. I always thought he was a great superhero artist. One of the best.
I remember picking up a random copy of New Teen Titans on a holiday. Didn't have a clue what it was about, but it didn't matter back then, Well,
no, exactly. You still, that's a nice thing because it was kind of self-contained, and they brought back sort of Doom Patrol, and there was like a couple of issues. They were such fun. They were really, and they were kind of DC were trying to do a Marvel because they brought Wolfman and Perez over from Marvel. They wanted to, but they succeeded so well.
Yeah, that was back when
it was an amazing run as well. I mean, God, they were on it for. I don't even know, it's either 50 or 60 issues. It was a very impressive run. I
mean, they rivaled X-Men, weren't they?
Easily.
Sales. I mean,
exactly. They were huge at the time. There was the crossover, obviously, X-Men Teen Titans that was done. Simonson. Another fantastic crossover.
Been around for certainly, I think, the right period to get all of that right mix.
No, definitely.
Is there anyone you've not managed to interview yet?
Well, I mean, the sad thing is that people are no longer with us. We never really got to speak to Mobius or to Frank Frazetta, who obviously are long gone now.
Yeah.
And there were people like, I guess, Carmine Infantino, obviously he was DC editor-in-chief, and they're great artists in his own right. So, sadly, I mean, we got to interview Kubert, which I'm very pleased that we did, and Eisner, again, very, very privileged that we got to spend a bit of time talking to him. But obviously, as you get a little older, it's slightly depressing. Some of the people, obviously people are getting up in years, and not everyone is going to sort of be around forever. So there are a few. I mean, there are some, very talented, modern creators as well. I mean, I couldn't even give you a list because there were so many. There's so many artists and writers that we do admire who still work.
As well as interviewing them, of course, you've attended so many festivals and cons. What is it about a festival that draws the fans to it?
Well, I guess it's just that these people have been reading comics, or these days they've been watching, the TV shows or watching the films, and I guess it's a chance for them to engage with the people related to the stuff that they enjoy. It's as simple as that. If they're a Batman fan or an X-Men fan or a fan of Black Hammer or Walking Dead, the comic, or Walking Dead, the TV series, they can go to a show, whether it's over here or in the US, and they can actually listen to these people speak. They can get things signed, and as I said, they can engage with the people who create the work that they admire. I mean, it is amazing. I mean, it's really grown. I mean, I went to San Diego from 1999 to 2010, and I saw it just blossom. And I've been going to New York, to the New York Comic Con that Reed have been putting on since it first started in, I think it was 2000 and something, 6, I think it was. And that's just become a massive show as well. And it's just incredible just to see how it's all blossomed. And over here as well, like the comic shows over here, they've grown. In the old days, there was sort of UCAC and then there was Bristol. But post-Bristol, there's been an explosion. I mean, God, it sometimes feels like there's a comic show almost every weekend over here. There isn't, but it does feel like that sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. And it's the festival, I suppose, that now seems to be the model that is being used for what was a comic convention.
Yes.
That would have been a room or a few rooms in a hotel.
Exactly.
Tables, but now it's much more of an event, and it seems to be running longer than the weekend.
Yes.
And you've been to LICAF as well. We're on the.
Yes, I have indeed. I wouldn't miss it. I'm planning again to come, obviously in October. It's always in my calendar. I always really enjoy. It's very impressive. I mean, having done our show, and we're about to finish the second one. It's people don't realise just how bloody hard it is. To put it all together, and there are all the different pieces, having to juggle all the different plates. And sometimes people drop out for whatever reason. Sometimes it's, for personal reasons or, perfectly legitimate reasons, either a conflict, clash with their schedule and you just have to be flexible, really.
So you've used a lot of your visits to these events and to the different cons to put together or help to produce the Portsmouth.
Yes, that's right.
Now, how long's the Portsmouth Comic Con been running?
Well, we did one last year, and so basically May is our second one. So this is only the second year that we've done it. Brilliant.
I mean, because it's had such a wonderful word of mouth already.
Yes.
Because I think straight away after the first one last year, it was definitely being talked around the circuit as a con to go to. I mean,
Yes.
Full disclosure, actually, I have got a table at.
I know, I'm very excited that you've got a table. Yes. So.
Which I was very lucky because I think by the time
well,
I'd
the
applied
main hall sold out.
Yes.
We have this extra outside space which we brought in. So we went outside marquee to give people an extra opportunity to get table space because, as you say, there was a real buzz around the first one, and so tables it went very, very quickly in the main hall. So
what's your specific role and responsibility for the con?
Well, I mean, we helped to get guests in, so comic guests, and some other guests like Will Simpson, who's coming, who started working on Hellblazer and Judge Dredd and Rogue Trooper, but for the last 7 years he's been the main concept artist and storyboard artist on Game of Thrones. So we've got him in because I've known Will for quite a few years. So it's dealing with that, dealing with panels. We organise the panels and we're hosting a lot of the panels ourselves. Myself and my sort of partner in crime on the show, Andrew Coleman, is going to be doing some panels as well. So it's the comic guests and the panels really.
Who's attending this year?
We've got a pretty impressive lineup, if we do say so ourselves. Hopefully. I mean, the first year we set the bar quite high with the Simonsons, but this year we've got Liam Sharp, who's obviously doing great work on the Green Lantern, which is getting a huge buzz. So I'm very, very pleased. He's a great creator. Marvel legend Roy Thomas, and with Captain Marvel just out, and obviously Avengers Endgame, which takes quite a lot of its cues from some of the classic Roy Thomas stories. Very and obviously he was the man who brought back the Golden Age characters at DC in the 80s. So we got him. We've got Steve Englehart, who wrote possibly one of my favourite Batman runs of all time, with Marshall Rogers, that amazing run in Detective where they revamped Deadshot, and it was just a fun. So we've got him, got Tom Coker, who does Black Monday Murders for Image, another phenomenal artist. We got Tommy Lee Edwards, who's obviously got an amazing CV. We've got Russell Walks, who's back, who's an American Star Wars artist, very talented man. And because it falls on the Star Wars Day on the 4th of May, we're hoping to have a limited edition print from him. We got a lot of great British guests as well. We've got the Etherington brothers, fantastic. You guys have had, they're phenomenal for kids. I mean, just as an ambassador for comics.
Superb. They're so energetic. They light up everything.
I've seen their panel at Lakes, and it was phenomenal. I mean, the way they get kids to really engage with the material. So we got them. We got Sean Phillips back, Lawrence Campbell, Chris Weston, Rob Williams. Cool. I think we've got Liam Moore and John Reppion, haven't been there before. We've got Lee Garbett, another very talented artist, coming from West Country. We've got Kieran Gillen, who's another amazing guest. I mean, he dies obviously a very hot book, and Wiccan's Vine is just ending. So he's another, and Alison Sampson, obviously, who's I think is just starting. And on the publishing side, we've got Dirk Wood coming back from IDW, and we've got Scott Dunbier, who works on their amazing Artist Edition books, because it's 20 years of IDW as well. So we're celebrating that. I mean, they do such phenomenal work. I mean, they just, as a company, they're just amazing, and Scott hasn't been here in about 20 years, so it's quite nice.
Oh, he's amazing. I've listened to a lot of podcasts with Scott Dunbier.
We're going to be doing a panel with him, and
superb.
There, so we're kind of very excited. So yes, we've got a really, and as I said, Will Simpson, there's going to be an exhibition of Game of Thrones art, and he'll also be doing a panel as well, and he'll be at the show. So I'd like to think we've got a good mix.
Yeah, very much so.
And I'm sure I've forgotten some people as well. So apologies. Actually, Declan Shalvey, I have forgotten, who's back. He's another great creator. Cool. So yeah, we've got a really strong lineup again. I like to think so.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds amazing. And you've also got the Tripwire Awards. Is that right? That's
right. Yes, indeed.
So you've got, which is going to be awarding veterans and newcomers alike.
Yes.
Is that still open for voting, or is that?
It is. It's open until the 30th of April. Actually, mm-hmm. People are welcome to vote. We whittled down the category to, I think it was 5 potential people to vote for each nomination.
Yeah.
And we tried to make it fair. We tried to reflect UK and US, and we tried to make sure it wasn't tilted towards one particular publisher, or we wanted to. We've never put an awards together before, so it is a challenge, but I've rather enjoyed doing it, and it's quite nice. So we're just finalising the statuettes for that over the next few weeks, and that's on the Saturday night at Portsmouth. It'll probably be outside, but my friend Jasper Bark will be hosting, so that'll be a lot of fun, and plans are afoot probably already to do that again next year, because it's worked out well. I mean, it's one of these things we basically exempted ourselves from the relevant category, and we got 3 other people to help us out. And again, we thought we thought to keep it fair, we're not going to, it'd be better if we didn't put ourselves forward for any of the categories, because it just seemed like we had to kind of extra edge over other people. So,
right.
And it just would have looked really dodgy. So we've decided that. But we got some really good people. We got some very nifty people. I mean, I watched the sort of voting race 2 or 3 times a day just to see, and there's some interesting choices. Obviously, I can't comment on who, and people have to come to the awards to see who's won. But I think we've got a good mix.
Yeah, definitely.
We've got a really good mix of US and UK talent, and as you say, veteran people and newer talent as well.
Which is great. I think
from a cross section, we really wanted to try and reflect. I mean, it's quite hard.
Yeah.
To boil down what's going on in the industry to 5 people or to 5 publishers, or it's very tricky. So, but I like to think that we've done our best.
Yeah, you've done really well. I was very impressed with the list of nominations when I voted. I think
introducing a couple of new categories, because a couple of people have talked about kind of like small press independent, which is a huge sector. And it's a massive flourishing sector, and so we may be introducing a couple of extra categories, but as with everything, this is it's a learning thing. It's a learning curve. You're on a curve, and if you don't quite get it right for the first time, you can look at it and go, okay, we need to include these as well. So probably for the second year, we might be including a couple of extra categories.
The Portsmouth Comic Con, that's on the weekend of May the 4th.
Indeed, 4th and 5th, yes.
And that's a two-day event.
Yes.
Where can people find the information for tickets?
Well, basically, if they want to get tickets, I suppose it's probably best to go sort of straight to the source. If they go to www.portsmouthcomiccon, so with 2 C's, .com, there's a handy link through to tickets, and there are the prices. Obviously, if you're a student, if you're under a certain age, they are obviously priced accordingly. And if you want to come in at certain times of the show, we have a different range, sort of different levels of prices. So if people want to come in early, get there for 10, or if they want to come slightly later, say for 12, then that is an option as well. So there's a lot of different options for people to buy tickets for the show on the website. And of course, if they want to find out extra information, they can also go to www.tripwiremagazine.co.uk, because we're obviously, as one of the main partners of the show, we are obviously promoting the show, and we're very proud to be part of it again.
You've got a new book coming out as well,
called Masters of Comics, which I've written, which is coming out from Insight Editions, which is going to be out. There are going to be early copies available at Portsmouth. It's not officially out until the 4th of June, but people will be able to come and get them. And I mean, I'm going to have to read you the list because I always forget who's in it. Basically, the artists in the book are Raphael Albuquerque, Lawrence Kaplan, Travis Charest, Frank Cho, Dave Johnson, Michael Kaluta, John Paul Leon, Milo Manara, Sean Martinborough, Dan Panosian, Sean Phillips, Frank Quietly, Eduardo Rizzo, P. Greg Russell, Tim Sell, Yuko Shimizu, Bill Sienkiewicz, Posey Simmons, Walt Simonson, William Simpson, and J.H. Williams III.
Jeepers.
So, and that's so it's a book that looks at the way that they work. So talking about their studio, and there are photos of their workspaces as well, obviously examples of their work. And I'm very, very proud. I mean, back in 2008, I did a book called Studio Space, which came out through Image, but I think this is like a step beyond, because I think that they've done an amazing job with the design. And it just looks great. I'm very, very proud to have my name on it. And as I said, if you want to go, obviously there are 3 of the artists there, Will Simpson and Sean Phillips and Lawrence Campbell will be at Portsmouth. So if people want to grab a copy, they can get it signed, by them. They can grab that from the Tripwire table at the Portsmouth show, and there'll be a panel where we're talking. But it's always interested me, the way that people work.
Completely.
It reflects their personality and also affects their personality. And these weird things where they've got stuff in there space to help them to work, but they like to have it there because it makes them feel comfortable.
One of the occasional formats I use for my bit of the podcast is talking to comic artists about favorite artists, but also the way they work. And a bit of a process fiend myself. I particularly love in some of the biographical books when you do see the space and you see the tools.
I mean, Sean Phillips has a fascinating, obviously as a man heavily connected to the lakes, his studio is amazing. I mean, he's got this incredibly, it's got a lovely skylight roof, and he's got these amazing books, all these movie posters where he works, and he's got a really lovely space, and it's sort of away from the main house, but it's really open and airy. Whereas Frank Quietly, his studio is tiny. I think it's probably about 5 or 6. He shares a room basically in a studio space in Glasgow with 2 other people, and I'd be surprised if it's like 5 or 6 foot across because it's a room. But he doesn't need. I mean, look at his work, and it's phenomenal. I mean, the detail that he puts into his work is staggering.
Yes, it's funny. It does have almost a slightly cramped, sometimes claustrophobic feel, doesn't it? In some ways,
it works. It does work. But
maybe I'm reading too much into it.
Well, I don't know, but he's able to do his work in such a small space.
Yeah,
it's absolutely phenomenal. And it's been interesting to see how these people, like Walt Simonson, who I know quite well, it's in his house, but he's got an amazing studio as well. And Will Simpson had 2 studios, although I'm not sure if he still does, kind of next door to each other. He said the houses were being redeveloped, so he's basically working from home. But one studio he'd paint in, and the other one he'd do his comic work. So that was really interesting because it was about going to a different place to do different work, quite literally.
That sounds amazing.
So that was really interesting. So so that's all. So now I got intro by Mark Verheeden as well. Obviously, he started life as a comic guy, but he's worked on everything from Battlestar Galactica to Heroes and Ash vs. the Evil Dead, and he did it before anyone else, really. He was there at the start in terms of like doing comic and genre TV shows. I think it's safe to say that a lot of the stuff that's happened the last sort of 5 years wouldn't have happened probably without him, doing his thing basically.
So that's you got previews available at the.
Well, there'll be our finished copies. These are finished copies,
right?
They're not officially out until the 4th of June, so people will be able to actually buy a finished copy of the book a good month before they'll be able to get it anywhere else, basically.
Brilliant. Oh well, Joel, thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure as always.
If we can get people down to Portsmouth Comic Con,
they're more than welcome.
Amazing time.
The weather will be as nice as it was. Like last year, it was spectacular. So. Fingers crossed it will be nice again. But we've got a lot happening. We've also got steampunk guys are doing a War of the Worlds thing down in the basement at the Guildhall. We've got so much stuff. I can't even remember all of it. I mean, there's a lot of amazing stuff. I think we're giving away copies of The Phoenix because it's Free Comic Day on the Saturday. We've got, and also I forgot to mention at the awards, people who come to attend the awards will be getting a goodie bag. I think for the first 100 people in, basically, that will get a Dan DiCarlo IDW Archie hardback, an Alien book from Dark Horse, and a really nice tote bag, which is an Umbrella Academy Dark Horse. So we got some really nifty stuff, and they're giveaways. So, if people want to come to the awards, then they'll get that, and they won't cost them a penny. So we've got some really nice stuff.
Brilliant.
People to grab. So we want to make it, a really inclusive event for everyone to have fun. I think we've got a Batmobile. I can't remember, but I think we do actually have Batmobiles at the show as well. So we've got so much. I can't even. But if people go to the Portsmouth website, they'll be able to see.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Kat.
Chatting. I can't wait to get my hands on that book, The Masters of
Well, I mean, it's only 6 weeks until the show.
Sounds so far up my street. It's unbelievable. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure. Thanks again.
A couple of quick plugs before I go. A friend of the show, the mighty Nick Prolix, has a Kickstarter running at the moment for Slang Pictorial number 4. You might remember me and my daughter Nancy reviewing this book. It's spectacular, great series. You've got the chance to back number 4 or indeed back the tier to gain all of the previous issues. Just go to nickprolix.com. He's got his website pointed to the Kickstarter campaign directly for the whole of the campaign. If you back the artist edition or higher, you will gain 4 guest artist postcards, one of which I produced. So go have a look. Also, 6th of April is SCGC 2019. The Swansea Comics and Gaming Con returns. It's at the Branwyn Hall. This year we've got Nick Brokenshire, Jake, Dylan Teague, Rachel Smith, Sarah Grayley. Always great fun. I'll be there as well if you want to come down and say hello. And 50% of ticket sales this year is going to Air Ambulance Wales. Thanks for listening. I'm This Man This Pete on Instagram and Twitter. And you can find more info on me or my comics at thismanthispete.com.
Okay, welcome back. Right, let's talk festival news.
I have it in my hands.
Okay, first thing first, the Breakthrough Initiative we discussed with Tim Filcher a while back. It's been extended to Friday, April the 12th.
Yes.
So
next
if you're
Brexit
interested... Yeah, that's it. If Brexit doesn't happen, this doesn't happen.
Yeah, it gets done to the next Brexit day.
So if you're interested, you've still got a chance to get involved in that. So
yes,
get involved. Do you want to talk first about some festival news?
I will do so.
Go for it.
The Lakes International Comic Art Festival is delighted to announce that Makiko and Julie Rocheleau are the latest comic creators to be part of one of its many comics cultural exchanges between countries. Continuing its efforts to develop an international network of comics cooperation that has previously included supporting comic creators' long-stay visits to countries such as Japan, London-based German-Japanese artist Makiko heads to Quebec, Canada on an artists' exchange this April. In September, Canadian artist Julie Rocheleau heads to Kendal for a 1-month residency and will be one of the many international guests at this year's Lakes International Comic Art Festival.
Awesome.
Oh. Do you want me to do the list?
Oh.
Its part is the result of the festival's partnership with Quebec BD, funded by the British Council. It's part of a rapidly expanding number of vital international alliances developed by the festival team.
Awesome. And I have got some more guests that are coming this year.
Do it.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. We have got, this is sort of a British contingency that are coming this time.
So you can't speak now either.
No, I can't. Lawrence Campbell, Kate Charlesworth, Stans Johnson, John McRae, Declan Shavely and Simon Spurrier are on their way, joining the already announced Hannah Berry, Becky Cloonan, Garth Ennis, Duncan Fregado, Junko Mizuno and Rob Williams. Mm-hmm. Wojciech Mazek, who's a Czech comic creator, has been announced as second artist in residence in Kendal this year.
Brilliant.
And also as part of the Comics Cultural Exchange, Jacob Phillips is heading over to the Czech Republic.
Oh, lovely.
In November.
Oh, fantastic.
So good on him, obviously. Still young, still learning a lot, but he's certainly...
amazing.
Moving on quickly, that's
Taking
for sure.
after his dad.
Yeah. So loads going on, more and more news as we get it. It's rapidly be October and it'll be cold again.
Oh no, don't say that. Don't wish away the summer. Okay, it was like 6 degrees today. I could almost undo my coat. So come on. Let me at least get a day wearing a t-shirt.
If anybody's got any festivals or events coming up that you want us to chat out, give us a shout, like Joel Meadows did today. Pete chatted to Joel because he's on his way down to Portsmouth, but we're happy to chat to you or Pete or any of the team. We'll happily have a discussion about your event.
We will indeed.
We've only got Oldham planned so far.
I'm going to be Oldham.
Coming up in May. You are?
Yay.
Your new comic will be out by then?
Yes.
Be able to buy it from you directly?
Yes.
So, yes.
Yes. I was just imagining. I'll be there.
What are you imagining?
I'm just imagining what sweets to take to entice people in.
Is that it?
Yeah. I'm thinking humbugs.
That's cheating.
That's not cheating.
Next episode, hopefully we'll have seen. I want to go and see Shazam at the cinema.
Okay.
Because that's getting good reviews. I'm really, really interested in that.
Yep.
We've not seen Captain Marvel. Probably won't do, to be fair, until video.
Video?
Yeah, video.
Video. We're going to go down the local newsagents and hire it.
We
VHS.
We have local newsagents that does DVD.
I know, it's so cool.
We'll never use it.
I know, but it's there, and I want it to stay there forever.
It's interesting. I suppose people they must use it otherwise because they have fairly new films in it.
They do.
They must.
Yeah, and games.
So
you can hire a game. It's like a tiny little Blockbuster shelf.
Yeah. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, movies. So I want to see Shazam, and obviously Avengers will be out fairly shortly.
Yeah.
As well.
Whatever.
What?
I can't feel the hype.
But the most important thing that's coming out,
apart from Game of Thrones,
apart from Game of Thrones, is the next season.
One Punch Man! Yay!
Apart from that, which is also
damn it.
looking brilliant, the next season of Cobra Kai. Now, if you've not seen this, people, if you love Karate Kid and you thought, I'm not interested, as soon as season 2 starts in about middle of April. Get the 3-month trial and watch both seasons because they are some of the best TV ever made. Sod your Game of Thrones VFX.
have Daniel San.
Yes, and Johnny just getting old and
grumpy.
Yes, it's amazing TV. Don't laugh at me.
I'm not laughing at you, darling.
Don't laugh.
I'm not.
Mr. Miyagi, rest in peace. Right, thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.
We'll be back next episode 100% with Hannah Berry.
Yes.
100% is happening.
Yes.
Because everything's been getting in the way. So yes. Hannah Berry will be on next episode.
She will be.
And we will be also on YouTube. So watch us.
Don't watch us. Don't do that bit.
Check the link for Nikki's new comic Leaf. Please support us. Yes. Support her. Go and grab yourself a copy and support Fair Spark Books as well in the process.
If you like foxes and hedgehogs and stuff.
There you go. Thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you for listening. Find out more about the festival at comicartfestival.com. Find out more about the show and how to contact us at comicartpodcast.uk. Find us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Music composed by Pop Noir.
This podcast is part of Britpod Scene, an independent network of uniquely British podcasts that's always growing. Check out BritpodScene.com or Britpod Scene on Twitter to find out more.